turns out Druid now struggles to deal with after we've seen the exit of cards like Swipe and Starfall. So Druid neither has the tools to deal with one singular big threat, nor the tools to deal with a very wide Rogue board. And on top of that, the Rogue has those Cult Neophytes, which can be extremely backbreaking in this matchup because a lot of the time the Druid is telegraphing when they're about to go for the big power spike of either Overgrowth or Guardian Animals, which are very key to the deck functioning with any type of power.
Octobot opening hand for Bunnyhoppor. As again, we join the match in progress, rounding up round number 8 here. It's exactly what Bunny is looking to see here. Pascoa on the other side, no real ramp in the opening hand, which is ideally, I'm sure, what he's looking for. As we've mentioned, there's no real way that he can play, you know, anti-aggro with Druid. It just doesn't really exist in the game right now. There's Lunar Eclipse, and this deck plays Broomsticks to be able to respond. So there's no real mulligan you can do where it's like, okay, I'm going to try and deal with Rogue's early threats. I think you do just have to mulligan for the good stuff, mulligan for the power cards, and just try and blow past the Rogue as best as you possibly can.
Good stuff and power cards, meaning pretty much exactly Overgrowth. I guess you'll accept a Wild Growth as well. Innervate is the one card I was thinking about in that mulligan, but in the end I ultimately agree with Pascoa's decision to toss it because in terms of impermanent mana ramp, the Innervate is even the weaker of the two options, right? Lightning Bloom can do a whole lot more because being able to kind of cheat the turns where you're able to get down the Guardian Animals is one way to beat Rogue, and he does have the power card payoff, but not any of the setup towards it.
More importantly, Gia, let's rewind because doth my eyes deceive me? I'm pretty sure there was an Octobot in Bunnyhoppor's opening mulligan, and now there is not. How do you feel about that?
Quite surprised, to be honest, but Bunny might be thinking this is not the type of Druid deck that wants to get on board with any minions that are below 4 attack. When it gets on board, quite often the Octobot immediately gets dead to rushing beasts, and so Bunny was thinking, if I don't have a guaranteed proc on this, maybe it's just better to look for something a bit more proactive, but I'm pretty surprised. I just haven't seen Octobot tossed in a very, very long time.
Yeah, and the only other thing I can imagine is, as you said, focus more on the do proactive thing. So instead look for the power cards, right? The cards that generally beat Druid. Mankrik on curve, Kazakus into 5-mana Golem, and Jandis, right? And since he didn't have any of those in the opening hand, maybe he was just looking for those a little bit more aggressively. But I certainly echo your surprise. Both players, it seems, kind of having very suboptimal openings here. Pascoa missing on the ramp, having to throw out Broom just to deal with a 2-1 on the other side. Bunnyhoppor playing a Foxy Fraud for no value apart from a Bloodfen Raptor, and now Pascoa having to hit hero power on turn 2. This is a very slow start from both sides, but things are going to pick up a little bit more now with the Mankrik.
Yeah, I would even make the argument that Jandis is perhaps even too late in this matchup if she's not discounted, because that's sort of the mana break point where Lightning Bloom into Guardian Animals becomes a pretty convenient answer. I think Bunnyhoppor, on top of just looking for the other 2 legendary cards on curve, was just potentially looking for things to do with a Foxy Fraud, whether it's Swindle or Vanessa. Just get on board, go wide, and there's only the 2 copies of Lunar Eclipse that act as removal that aren't minion based from Pascoa, so it's actually quite difficult to deal with a type of zoo opener from Rogue, but it's a lot harder to achieve that as Rogue when you're not on the coin. And so the Octobot was even one more space in hand that's kind of a low pressure minion that wasn't really guaranteed to get value unless he picked up field contact.
I like this decision. He is going to double coin out the Twilight Runner. This essentially gives him 2 more draws on the following turn for Overgrowth, which Gia quite rightly boiled down my my expression of saying he's looking for the good stuff into saying you need exactly Overgrowth, because you do pretty much need exactly Overgrowth when you're playing this deck. So with the hand that he has, very, very greedy. 4 of the most expensive top-end cards in his deck. I think just spending those 2 coins, which would allow him to play one of these cards, to give him extra opportunities to look for the Overgrowth, which will allow him to play all of these cards off the Twilight Runner on the following turn. I think this is smart.
Yeah, it also offers a very clean value trade into the Mankrik that Bunnyhoppor doesn't have very many ways of playing around. There's no way for Rogue to interact with Stealth outside of some very niche generations off of Wand Thief, which if he wants, he can fish for exactly Devolving Missiles. But I think Bunny is going for the more responsible play of getting the guaranteed card draw and preparing instead for better reactions towards what Pascoa is going to do next turn.
Ooh. It's a decent starting point, but can we upgrade it? No, it's just going to be the wild growth. But decent enough, it does leave a potential dead turn still on the following turn. Unbelievably, Pascoa could be in the position where he has 6 mana and 0 playable cards on the following turn. As weird as that reality is.
I find that strangely believable for a deck of this build. But yeah, not having hit Lightning Bloom or Overgrowth at this point is going to be awful. And so while I did say Bunny was looking for ways to react to this, I think more accurately, he's looking for ways to be proactive and punish this kind of dead turn window from Pascoa before that crucial turn 8 rolls around, where it's either Guardian Animals or Primordial Protector. So Bunny's going to go fishing with the One Thief for either card draw or just some type of burst, because he is just winning on board. Runed Orb looks pretty good here.
Yeah, Runed Orb looks reasonable. There is armor gain potential in the deck with Cenarian Wards that can disrupt that kind of plan, but it is certainly a plan, which is better than no plan that he has otherwise, because this hand really doesn't go anywhere unless he is going to stick a few minions and deal damage.
And while I am usually a spend your mana gamer, I think this is the type of hand from Bunnyhoppor where I was gonna say just drop the Prize Splendor, put the maximum pressure on board, and try and win off the back of burst, because currently his hand is not generating very much value whatsoever. This is scary though for Bunnyhoppor, because it's within range of a 2-card combo blowing him out, Lightning Bloom plus any of the strong 8-cost cards.
Oh, decision time, Gia. Nourish would be playable here with the discount, but the additional security potentially from a Moontouch Amulet, but even then he'd have to corrupt it
right.
a different card first. Does it just have to be Nourish Ramp? Like, is that the only play this turn?
I think it has to be. He could technically take Moontouched and just like wait for one more turn, but it involves getting a perfect top deck for the very next turn, right? And if the Moontouch goes off and you're able to play an 8-cost card, you've already won by doing just the 8-cost card. So I think he is going to take this one turn of scariness and try and blow Bunnyhoppor out of the water with a big Guardian Animals.
Diminishing returns on Swindles, but I don't really see anything else there that offered much upside.
2 shots with 2 Swindles for the 3/7 Mankrik, which is absolutely what Bunnyhoppor is looking for. He would also just take a Wicked Stab at this point. Okay, there is Mankrik's wife. Secret Passage in hand next turn to try and fish for those Wicked Stabs, because crucially, if Pascoa is going to go for Guardian Animals, he's not immediately healing that way. Same with Primordial Protector, which is only going to pull an 8-cost minion at this point, because Pascoa is only running the 1 copy of Survival of the Fittest.
Job done.
Drop minions do have incredibly high scam potential, though, if he does end up going that way, but it looks like it's more likely to be the Guardian Animals here. He does corrupt the Strongman, make it playable for 0 at the same time, allow him to put up the defenses that he needs. But that extra 3/7 that Bunny landed that turn could potentially make all the difference this turn. I said diminishing returns on the Swindle, but you quite rightly pointed out that the extra Swindle was what Bunny needed to increase the odds of hitting the Enraged Mankrik.
Yeah, I think there were valid reasons for all the other picks from its Discover, but he had kind of zeroed in on the fact that if the Mankrik comes down this turn, not only does it push immediate damage, it makes it harder for Pascoa to actually fully clear the board even with the Guardian Animals. Like, he would need Lake Thresher for sure to at least be one of the cards, and then that would still leave 3 minions on board or a singular Mankrik, which is either, like, the Mankrik itself is too tall to be dealt with, and he misses on Lake Thresher entirely.
No Thresher is so unfortunate for Pascoa here. He does still have some potential outs off the draw to maybe be able to still Lunar Eclipse in this turn to clear up more damage, but misses on those as well. So it is just now the Strongman that's coming down, and just with the double Brain Freeze in hand for Bunnyhoppor already to be able to clear out the taunt, that is going to be game number 4, going over to Bunny, squaring up the series.
Huge. I have to say I'm a bit surprised to not see Pascoa start with Lunar Eclipse there, because even if he had gotten Lake Thresher, right, I think he would still need to put some damage on the Mankrik with most other beast outcomes to get the full board clear. As it happens, Bunny was in a position where even if there was the full board clear, he had Secret Passage to try and fish for Wicked Stab. So either way, good outcome for Bunnyhoppor, but that combination of beasts in particular with no Lake Thresher just gave Pascoa 0 outs.
Yeah, and you saw Bunny very focused on a singular strategy there, right? Of just playing minions, even if they're just Bloodfen Raptors, and hitting your opponent with them. And it's kind of what Druid dies to. I think most people have tried at least to play some form of the Miracle Druid with, you know, Cthulhu, Anaconda, all that kind of business, Gadgetzan, Auctioneer, Celestial Alignment. If you're Pheno, you've done nothing else but that for the past 3 months or so. But we're all familiar with the experience playing that deck that sometimes, well, more often than not, your opponent just plays a minion and you kind of feel like you die. That is not an experience that is exclusive to Miracle Druid. Druid just doesn't really have options in the class to clear minions from hand right now. So I think, you know, we debated it a lot early on about the mulligan strategy and the matchup strategy for Bunny, but I think he had a good handle on it overall, which is understanding that he just wanted to get big, high-attack minions in play quickly, and Octobot doesn't necessarily do that, even though it can discount minions in hands to get down quicker. He just wanted to get going with that Foxy Fraud much quicker, as you pointed out, and it paid off for him in the end. Just too much damage coming through too quickly.
Turns out Octobot's only 2-mana Thaurissan if your opponent actually gets on board early, which is, you know, a lot of the decks in the meta, to be fair. That's why the card is so strong. But in these niche situations where the Octobot is not really guaranteed to get value, and you would actually rather have a 3-2 continually pushing damage, I think Bunnyhoppor was very smart to identify that as a better route to victory. Now he's gonna get on his Rush Warrior, which is, for the most part, the standard list, just cutting a Warmaul Challenger for the Mutinous at the top end, which I've generally been a fan of, even if not so much for disruption, just to have a curve play to fill out that crucial turn 7. That Rush Warrior seems time and again to have like a weak turn that they just need to bridge the gap to Troublemaker.
It absolutely is, yeah. In my Rush Warrior experience, it is definitely the most difficult turn to find something powerful to do. And Mutinous does just fit in there quite perfectly, and it does answer a few matchups that Rush Warrior needs some help with as well, just giving it that X factor, right? Because outside of that, it's a very straightforward deck, right? It plays stats, it deals with board presence very effectively, but it can be weak to, you know, various combo decks and, you know, special effect minions in the opponent's hands. So having Mutinous to be able to deal with those situations, I think can be quite powerful. But Gia, there is all of the ramp that Pascoa was looking for in the previous game. Literally all of it.
Oh my goodness. He can just get to 10 mana by turn 5, is it? No, turn 4.
Yeah,
I'm keeping these 3 cards on the left.
Growth on 4. Yep, seems good. All right.
Okay, only 1 growth. I'm a bit surprised, to be honest. Obviously, the second growth is diminishing returns also because it's 1 less slot for an actual powerful thing to pay off with.
Yes.
But this keep means that Pascoa needs, I think, 1 more piece of impermanent ramp to get the fastest possible either Guardian Animals or Primordial Protector, right? Because he'll coin growth, go to 4, and then overgrowth takes him to 7 mana the next turn. So it's still a little bit short. But okay, he has Blue Bait, so all he needs is one of the heavy hitters.
Yeah, this used to be the dream already, right? That 2-keep in Old Druid before Guardian Animals got nerfed, that was the nuts, right? Because that was all you needed, was to get to 7 and you were set. But now, as you rightly point out, you need to get to 8 to really do anything powerful, whether that's Primordial Protector, Guardian Animals, Cenarian Ward. It doesn't matter what it is. You kind of need 8 mana to deal with it. So I kind of agree it was a little bit strange to see it thrown away, but at the same time, as you mentioned, the third ramp, the second overgrowth, takes you all the way to 10, so it is kind of overkill in that position. So I think, you know, mulliganing for something to actually do did make a lot of sense in that position, but Pascoa now really has the perfect balance. He can do everything incredibly quickly here now, even leveraging the Lightning Bloom to get the ramp out quicker and potentially get through to the Cenarian Ward.
This is crazy. Like, if he got Survival of the Fittest, he could have played it very early, in fact. But choosing instead to start with Overgrowth by expending the Lightning Bloom, it means he gets to Wild Growth next turn and still go to 8 mana by an early turn that we outlined, but he preserves 2 pieces of ramp that don't overload him later on. So I think this is just a small optimization from Pascoa, but the downside of this keep is he's not doing anything until then, so Bunny just has a very similar game plan to what he had last game.
Yeah. And I was just about to say, we've been so focused on, how perfect Pascoa's opener was in terms of like a solitaire druid game plan, that we really haven't paid attention to just how aggressive Bunny's hand is, curving out these 3 perfect opening minions that Pascoa really can't interact with, and now he has the opportunity to go studies into a rush minion to both buff and duplicate, or just pick up a Tent Trasher, which is enormous.
That's huge. I mean, he can studies first. If he hits the Sky Talent, he can play that and the Tent Trasher and fill up the board completely. Misses on that, which is, not the end of the world. He still just gets to play some giant minions here with the Tent Trasher. Only question is, what does he pick up alongside that? And I guess the Anchorman, just as another minion he can play on curve that has a relevant attack total.
Agreed. Yeah, I like Ron Burgundy here, but he's going to play, most importantly, a 7-5 and a 9-5 this turn, right? With the way that the duplicating buff works.
Yeah.
9-1, sorry, yeah, you're absolutely right. Playmaker would be a much better card if it works like that.
Indeed. But the 9-1 is very threatening in its own right because it still requires pretty much Lunar Eclipse for Pascoa to deal with. There are some hands with Broom that get there, but this is not one of those hands from Pascoa. And the Cenarian Ward looks pretty puny in the face of this development from Bunnyhoppor. You're talking about very high scam potential 8 drops. What's the one that does it here, Sottle? I don't know.
I mean, Kia can kill a 9-1 and the Playmaker and still survive as a taunt, but that's not great. I'm out of ideas. I can't think of one that is this good.
And clearly, Pascoa can just go over the ward, skip straight to the Clown into Strongman, but that just doesn't feel strong, even though you're putting, what is that, like 18 worth of stats on the board when there's Playmaker and Parade Leader already pre-developed. It's just not getting there. So I agree that he does have to scam somehow with the Cenarian Ward, but it has to be pretty spectacular. That is not it.
Nope. That is certainly not it. That just dies straight up to a 9-1. You might as well have got the cursed 8-1 off Cenarian Ward with how low value that actually ends up being.
And so the Anchorman, the second one, goes up to 8 attacks, so it actually one-shots the... Oh my goodness. The 8-8. So basically Bunny can push...
Everything.
Everything? Yeah.
16, 20,
oh my gosh.
22, 24, 20. It's lethal, Gia. He's dead.
He's just dead. What is this?
8, 6, everything goes face. 16, 20, 22, 24, 27 with the weapon. That is just simply lethal.
Bunnyhoppor double-checking, triple-checking just to make sure. And I think he probably can't believe it the same way we couldn't believe how it's lethal. It's even too over lethal with this perfect curve from Bunnyhoppor that simply outclasses the perfect curve from Pascoa.
And if you are not winning that game of Hearthstone with Clown Druid, delete that deck. Like, whoever told you to send in the clowns, those Laffy Daffy clowns, delete that person from your friends list. Never listen to them again. Because, oh my goodness, that was brutal. But of course, we are being facetious. It's a big moment for both of these players. Now, I do not get to make this statement officially. I am not an admin. I cannot confirm this. But from my perspective, I do believe that is now Bunnyhoppor re-promoted to Grandmasters because he, at minimum, gets a number of points from this event for picking up 7 wins from that point, which I think qualifies him back into Grandmasters in the European region. The most difficult